Въехали немцы, это было зимой.
Nazi soldiers entered. It was in the winter. Mum and I were in the village at that moment. The Nazi soldiers started drinking and drank to the point that they began to pull the children from the second floor and shoot at them like targets. We jumped from the windows into the snowdrifts and fled. They shot at us, but the locals saved us. We were sitting on the tram. When a Nazi soldier took a step forward, someone shot him in the back. The tram was immediately surrounded. They pushed us out and placed us against a wall. A boy whispered to me, "Run." I ran to the street, to the left. There was a woman with a child. She took my hand. I didn't know she was German. There stood a Gestapo soldier. She told him that I was her child, and he let us go.
Она говорит, mein Kind. Он пропустил.
We were only wearing light dresses. They attached us to a convoy of prisoners. It was already moving without food and water, with sick and lame people. When some people fell, they shot them immediately. When we could not walk, we had to carry each other. Then we were sorted. On the left were the sick, the lame, and old. Mum was just thrown to the right.
She shouted, "Girls, hold each other's hands all your life, never part." These were her last words.
Once we were searching for our old street with my sister. We found just a wall, and we wrote on the wall, "Mum, we are home."
Здесь.
In just 4 years, the Nazis systematically murdered at least over 1 million people in Auschwitz, most of them Jews, and that's the official number. Those responsible didn't bother to keep records of the industrial scale of the slaughter.
I suppose there were around 3 million people killed in Auschwitz, 2.5 million of them through gas chambers. I myself never knew the total number, and I have nothing to help me arrive at an estimate. I can only remember the figures involved in the larger actions.
However, witness accounts in the Russian Federal Security Service archives show that those figures could be much higher, by as much as millions. As historian Vladimir Makarov points out, the Nazis did everything to conceal the extent of their atrocities.
Places of mass destruction were carefully hidden, trees were planted there, photos were seized, taking footage of mass executions was prohibited. So based on the prisoner accounts, the number could be up to 6 million.
The newly declassified documents also paint a gruesome picture of the atrocities in the camp. The contents of this file will send shivers down anyone's spine. Professor of gynecology Karl Klauberg took pride in his work. Interrogation files show that his research included female sterilization, experiments on children, and prisoners contaminated with infectious diseases. The patients were deliberately killed so autopsies could be carried out.
He thought he was doing it in the name of medicine, in the name of healing people. All these experiments were conducted mainly in accordance with the SS program to annihilate the peoples of occupied countries.
A large number died at the hands of the guards and supervisors who were picked from among the prisoners by the SS. Alfred Skrzypek, a former member of the Polish underground, was in charge of a whole block in Auschwitz. Supervisors like him, eager for money and an increase in daily rations, would execute fellow prisoners and claim they tried to escape. Their reward, 2 marks per day and some extra food.
I didn't report to anyone when punishing the prisoners. I did it myself. I bit them with a piece of rubber hose. I kept it just for that. In the winter, people who were to be terminated were forced to work naked until they collapsed and died. Between 200 and 300 people died this way.
3 female SS guards in this file were sentenced to death by the Soviet Union after their atrocities were exposed.
These sadists arranged so-called races. Prisoners carrying a heavy load were made to run 700 to 800 meters, all while being beaten. They dug out a pit about 60 meters long and 2 meters deep. Women would starve to death in there. Their bodies were burnt in the same pit.
After the liberation of Auschwitz, Soviet counterintelligence worked meticulously to document and expose these crimes against humanity so that they would never be repeated.